All right, let me know. Let me know how the audio is. Let me know how the audio is for you guys.
We tend to like people who put in effort. We're inspired by stories of people succeeding against all odds through hard work and dedication.
Yeah, let me know if that audio level is good for you guys or if it needs to be increased or decreased. Should be good though. Sounds good. Alright. Yeah, let's watch this video together from Corey Gaming. Amazing YouTube channel, by the way. Highly recommend. So yeah, we're gonna watch this together, and yeah, I'll give my inputs on it. We have seen some videos from Corey Gaming in the past, and as I said, really good stuff. So I'm excited.
We tend to like people who put in effort. We're inspired by stories of people succeeding against all odds through hard work and dedication, and we're less impressed
Dude,
with
that
people
guy,
who are just
that guy
famous
there,
for being
those
famous. Hard work and
I saw him play at one of the Evos. It's actually crazy how good he was at Melee, having to play that
dedication,
way.
And we're less
That was
impressed
inspiring.
with people who are just famous for being famous.
All you had to do was show up.
Yeah.
This also applies to the way we play.
Yeah.
Let's say all you do is jump back to get away and throw fireball, or jump forward heavy kick sweep, and when the opponent is close... This playstyle has been encapsulated in a meme known as Flowchart Ken, a game plan so basic you can fit it on a sheet of paper. But what makes people rage is that this flowchart is surprisingly effective. The player Gandhi in the previous analysis video won by playing this way. There's something frustrating about losing to the same simple pattern.
Oh my god, now I'm getting pissed!
And it feels especially annoying to get hit by the same move over and over again.
Ow!
Alright, I'm far from a Street Fighter expert, but if you recognize this from yourself, that you're losing to the same thing over and over, very rarely is the tactic broken to the point where it's, you know, impossible to play around. So the best thing in these type of scenarios, if you're losing to the same type of thing over and over, is trying to figure out solutions, not just mindlessly keep playing. If you have an issue, whether it's like, you know, in any game, any sport, whatever it is, try to find the solution rather than like keep, you know, rushing the same thing and, you know, keep losing the same way. Doesn't matter if you lose to the same thing for 10 hours, it's not going to help by doing it for another hour. You have to like think about the solutions and then apply them.
Would it?
This might be why in Smash, hitting someone with the same move in succession makes it weaker and weaker until you do a different attack.
It's called stale move negation, or just staling.
Regardless, the terrible feeling comes from the fact that your opponent seemingly beat you without doing much or thinking much. You might call them or their character brain dead and say all they were doing is this one thing, or maybe you might say, "You didn't do nothing." And while you could be right about all that, why should anyone have to use any more brain power than needed to defeat their opponent? Doing certain tasks while brain dead, or at least without much thinking, is often the best way to do it. For example, how much do you think about when to shoot and when not to shoot in the vertical scrolling shooter Raiden? Hopefully never, because you have unlimited ammo, there's no need to reload, and there are no idiot bystanders in the way.
Don't shoot!
The shooting aspect of this game is something you just do. This mode of thinking that's unconscious, effortless, automatic, and fast is called System 1. System 1 is why it doesn't take long for you to know which of these you'd prefer to eat, and why you can quickly know how to finish the phrase bread and butter. These things are brain dead easy. But the game Raiden has one other button, the bomb button. You only start with 3 of these, so you need to think about when to use them and when not to. Maybe you'll use them when the bullet hell gets too overwhelming, or maybe you'll save them for a certain boss. This mode of thinking that is conscious, calculating, and slower is called System 2. You need System 2 to handle things like solving 16 times 23 in your head, or deciding which of these you'd rather eat. If you were to think hard about when to fire bullets, but be brain dead about when to use bombs, you probably wouldn't be as good at Raiden. It's good to know when you need to autopilot and when you need to make deliberate choices.
Yeah, I think like the first thing, like the autopilot and like yeah, going for the same thing over and over. That's like where most people when they stop improving. Like I've often talked about like the illusion of improving. Like when you pick up something new, you will improve naturally by just playing because you're new, right? But at a certain point, you're gonna hit the plateau if that's your like main way of improving, just playing and not really like trying to truly understand how the game works. So yeah, I would say like the autopilot way of playing. And the thing is like, of course, like you can play a lot with autopilot and still be very good. But even if you're a player like that, like if you see a player plays a lot of autopilot in tournament and stuff, they probably, and by probably I mean they have thought about the game in a very conscious way and still practice scenarios, so they still know like the answers to, you know, different type of scenarios. So it's like it's still very important, like the consciousness and knowing why something work and how to apply it.
But System 2 is uncomfortable because thinking takes effort. It even affects you physically. When thinking hard and slow, your muscles tense up, your heart rate speeds up, your blood pressure rises, and most interestingly, your pupils become dilated. This might be why some poker players wear sunglasses indoors, and why lie detectors measure your blood pressure and pulse. Lying requires more thinking because you have to constantly remember what you said to keep your story straight.
You really have to calm down.
Why the should I?
You'll fail the test.
In fighting games, your blood pressure might literally rise from having to remember moves. For new players, your System 2 will be working hard to learn motion inputs. Things like the Dragon Punch motion are especially difficult because it's so unlike anything else you do in life. At least the 360 motion is kind of like churning butter. Well, actually not really. But because Dragon Punches are such powerful anti-airs, people tend to try them every chance they get, even if they mess up a lot. But not DJ Qbert.
Now, Lupe Fiasco versus Qbert. Alright, let's go.
DJ Qbert clearly knows how to do it.
Yeah, Kishoda, I was thinking about that, the lying thing, and like Among
But
Us.
he doesn't do it when his opponent jumps
Dude,
at him.
it's hard
He
as fuck.
uses this move instead, crouching hard punch.
Yo, Qbert.
Oh, he's got the anti-air?
With the anti-air?
This is much easier to do because you just input a direction and a button, and you get pretty damn close to a Dragon Punch. I mean, Ken's not flying off the ground or anything, but it looks close enough and also hits people out of the air. This poor man's Dragon Punch acts as a System 1 alternative to the much harder motion input Dragon Punch. DJ Qbert was smart enough to use the simpler move in tight anti-air situations instead of attempting a motion input he hasn't completely mastered yet.
Another anti-air. Look at that stun bar. And Qbert, just the defense is so good.
Few things take more effort than using your slow thinking System 2 under time pressure, and that's when things come out wrong.
Hola, Super Nintendo Charmers.
But of course, you can practice motion input so much that it becomes fast, easy, and automatic. This means what once required your System 2 to perform can now properly be handled by System 1. With practice, some activities can become quick and automatic. But what if you don't want to do the knockoff?
Yeah, that's kind of like, you know, taking like complicated stuff and like things that might be hard to execute. Yeah, like my mentality was often like trying to practice things until it was easier to land it than to mess up. That's like another important thing I think in like games and stuff, that I feel like a lot of people, and everyone probably falls victim to it at some point, is confirmation bias. So in practice, you might land it like 1 or 2 times here and there, right? And then you justify it as like you're consistent at it. But in reality, that's not the case. So it's more like it should be, the goal is to make it easy enough where you actually land it whenever required. But yeah, I think it's very common to like overvalue the times you land it and disregard the times you fail something. And that's often why like people are not as consistent and as good as they might believe they are. But it's easy to fall victim for that type of thinking.
Dragon Punch, and you're not able to consistently do the real one. Some games now give you the option to do a special move with either the motion input or a simple input during a match. In Grand Blue Fantasy Versus, there's a dedicated button you can press with a directional that lets you do simple input special moves, but the downside is that it has a longer cooldown time than the motion input, meaning you have to wait longer until you can use it again.
Dude, this is actually okay. Like, I've given ideas like this for Smash. When people say that they want like a lot of Smash games to be like quote unquote more accessible, and sometimes taking away like executional stuff that I personally think is a good thing to have as well. I've actually made similar suggestions to this, where you can have like an easier option that's like very easy to execute, but it's slightly like worse in a different way. Maybe like slightly slower, or in this case like slightly longer before like you get it back again. So then you can like pick, do I want to do the harder option, risk failing, but the reward is higher, right? Or I do the very easy, consistent one, and I have to pay the price with like the charger, in this case, being longer. I've made similar suggestions for Smash, but a lot of people told me that no, they don't want it. I mean, I'm not going to speak for everyone. Some ideas, like some people had the idea that that would just be very, very bad, because they want to have access to the best thing and it to be guaranteed for them. I mean, everyone is of course entitled to their own opinion. I'm not going to say that people have to agree with me, but I personally think design choices like that can be really good. Can be really good, because now you get to pick easy, consistent option, but it's slightly worse, or a lot worse in some scenarios, probably. Or you can pick the harder option, but you run the risk of failing it. I think that sounds amazing. That sounds amazing.
This doesn't mean the easy input is just for casuals, because the best players use both motion and simple inputs depending on the situation. No matter how good you get at doing the motion input, the simple input requires less time to execute. For example, cooldown time doesn't matter if your move wins the round.
Yeah, that was actually literally what I was about to say, but I was like, I think he actually will say this. And that's another reason why having both can be a good idea. Because it's probably been scenarios when someone loses the round going for the harder one when they can go for the easier one, but they just don't recognize it in time. I could imagine that's happened.
So here's a quick question. A bat and a ball cost $1.10. The bat costs $1 more than the ball. How much does the ball cost? The answer is 5 cents.
Yeah.
If the answer
or
of 10 cents
0.05,
came across
I mean.
your mind, you're not unlike over half the Ivy League students who also got this question wrong. Your System 2 was likely just sitting there while System 1 blurted out an intuitive but incorrect answer. System 2 can be notoriously lazy while System 1 can be very eager. It's not that it was a hard question, it's just that System 2 has to get up and tell System 1 to take a back seat for this particular problem. System 2 is in charge of self-control. Anyone who's refrained from eating a slice of pizza or refrained from tossing their controller knows what this feels like. While System 1 is often correct about its quick conclusions such as this equals 4 or this movie's gonna suck, it can make some serious errors of judgment in other cases. But the biggest problem with System 1 is that it's hard, if not impossible, to shut off entirely. If you doubt this, try to play your favorite fighting game with all your buttons reversed. Even if you managed to never press the wrong button, it took more mental energy because System 2 had to step in, meaning tenser muscles, thus higher chance of input error in other ways. There's a reason why countless hours have been spent on button checks at fighting game tournaments.
I swear these button checks, man. Oh my god.
So here's a not so quick question. Count how many times the players wearing white pass the basketball. You can pause the video you're watching now, go over to this one, and count for yourself. When you come back with your answer, you may or may not have realized that there was a gorilla that walked through the scene. Even though it was there for 9 seconds, about half the people who were counting the passes in this video did not see the gorilla, which suggests that under System 2, we can be blind to the obvious.
Yeah.
Anyone who just sees this video without doing a task will see the gorilla. This explains why some of the best players in the world do not respond with an anti-air when their opponent jumps at them.
No anti-air?
But what occupies the player's attention are other mentally intensive things like the neutral game going on the ground. The opponent's jumping attack acts as the invisible gorilla here.
Oh boy, that jump gets the uppercut! What a great start!
This shows that as much as we want to think hard about each situation to make the best decision possible, System 2 takes too much effort to do so. Your brain will be completely fried.
Yeah, that's actually really, really interesting. I actually wonder sometimes how much certain players think while they're playing, and how they might be more, possibly getting exposed to more easy things to react to, for example. I don't know, that's the mental aspects and like thinking strategies is very interesting in competitions. And also that gorilla thing, like, I'm not even surprised. I'm not even sure if I would have noticed it if I did the test. Like, maybe I would have focused so much on the ball getting like passed. I mean, if half the people truthfully missed it, then yeah, that's actually like such a significant portion.
But what if you could fry your opponent's brain instead? Fighting game legend Justin Wong is one of the few people who can say they've made a career out of making people lose their patience.
Justin, playing super lame. There's only 30 seconds left.
So what does Justin do to make people so frustrated?
Rare footage of Daigo actually angry.
I would say the go-to thing is blocking. Because when you block a lot, it gets people mad. Because obviously when people practice fighting games, all they do is training mode, practice combos, practice setups. But if you just sit there and block and all they can do is just really like grab or just do a frame trap and then back off, for example, right? I think for them it's like not fun because it's like very dry because you're not giving them what they want. If you have good defense and you just block all day, they will get frustrated. They start blocking with their face.
Excellent.
Isn't blocking with your face the Rocky in the Rocky movies?
They can't just give into their
but he can
temptation to
somehow
go
take
in
like a
and
billion
attack.
punches.
I remember I used to play even faster than I do now. I would make really quick mistakes. I'm supposed to think first, but I would want to beat them so bad. I just want to do this, and I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this. But the way Tekken works, especially at high level, you have to learn how to shut down. You have to see how they react to what you're doing. So yeah, I definitely had to change how I played before because I played way too fast, and I wasn't adapting. I was just playing to kill, not playing to break them down slowly.
But self-control is an effortful System 2 activity, and studies by the psychologist Roy Baumeister have suggested that if you force self-control upon yourself like this, your ability to exert self-control lessens for the next challenge. This is called ego depletion, and ego-depleted people have been known to succumb quicker to the urge to quit in physical tasks, resisting junk food, and apparently melee matches against Jigglypuff.
Oh, he's done. He's done. Probably no fist bump, I'm guessing.
And when you lose control,
Oh my
you make
god, that
terrible
was actually
decisions like
that was actually
throwing crabs
funny.
at people.
I love Hungrybox play. I love Jigglypuff. But I also see the fact that like other Smash players don't want to play lame. I know Melee is exciting, it's very hype, but all I see is aggressive, Rushdown, Fox, Falco, like those characters. But then you see Hungrybox just timing you out, laming you out, and even just like other Jigglypuffs are just sitting there and just, stalling the clock. And it's smart, man. The fact that that guy got that Ice Climber to rage quit, that was great. I love that. I love seeing rage quit stuff like that.
I'm
all
not
the time.
surprised.
It's a weird
Justin
and
is saying
controversial
this.
idea that we all possess some kind of mental energy meter that causes
But yeah,
us to
I
lose
mean,
self-control
play to
as
win.
it
I can
goes
respect
down.
it even if I don't.
But effortful thinking actually does.
Some like timeout stuff. Obviously, I'm not a fan, but play to win. Play to win. It's a competition at the end of the day, and people's subjective hating. Doesn't mean that other people have to play the way you want to. I mean, Justin, yeah, he would main puff. He would hang on the ledge. And then do air planking in many matchups. Yeah, I do think timing out in Melee or Smash in general, it's just like the clock is like so much longer and you can like move around much more. And you have like platforms, characters can go under stages. So I feel like it's not really a fair comparison to traditional fighters. But I mean, I guess it's the closest you can do if you want to compare them. I mean, Melee objectively have issues with the ledge. Not the issues that some people claim about. I mean, that's more of a preference. But regaining invincibility after like 100 ledge grabs, that is bad. They never realized that it could be an issue that people was gonna camp the ledge.
Does cause your blood sugar level to drop. So the question is, would it help to maintain your self-control if you just replenished yourself with more sugar? Baumeister's team tested this by giving subjects an ego-depleting task and then giving them some lemonade. But half the lemonade had real sugar, while the other half had an artificial sweetener, Splenda. When given the next challenge, the ones who had the real sugar actually performed better than the ones with the fake sugar. So does that mean the key to beating defensive players is to have sugar between games? Let's not get too carried away, but it is something to think about, especially when you get to game 19, final game, final round, and win. The idea of either playing brain dead or depleting mental energy all the time understandably doesn't sound like a fun thing to do because it's not. But as you understand the game and meet the right opponents, you'll start to deliberately control your attention instead of mindlessly playing or forcing concentration on each task. Sometimes you'll be so absorbed in a game that you lose track of time, all your worries seem to disappear, and all you can think about is what you're doing in the moment. The thing you're doing can be anything from playing fighting games to video editing. The psychologist Mihai Csikszentmihalyi called this state flow, but you might have heard it referred to as being in the zone.
I mean, everything kind of feels in sync. It's like you're feeling good about your shot, your confidence is through the roof. It's the best feeling in the world.
Csikszentmihalyi has referred to flow as an optimal experience, and Professor Raj Raghunathan writes that pursuing flow is one of the habits of the highly happy. But in order to reach this state, you need good tutorials.
There has to be a kind of a clear goal.
Good matchmaking.
The goal should not be too difficult or too easy, but fairly well matched to your skills.
And good netcode.
The activity as you start acting towards the goal should provide feedback immediately.
If you look at Csikszentmihalyi's flow chart, you'll notice the sweet spot to achieve flow is at the intersection of high perceived skill and high perceived challenge. But being good at something and facing challenges that match your skill is also how you get better. So does that mean getting good is a key to happiness? Let's not get carried away, but it is something to think about. This was Gerald from Corey Gaming. Thanks for watching, and thanks for coming. After 4 months of grinding, we finally finished our new studio/fighting game venue in Seoul. Corey Studios will provide
dope.
video content services in the day and beatdown sessions at night. Make sure to look in the description for details on when we're open, especially when there's a pandemic outbreak. This video is largely based on Thinking Fast and Slow by Nobel laureate Daniel Kahneman, and it so happens that this video is sponsored by Audible, where you can find this and thousands of other audiobooks, podcasts, and original content.
Yeah, no, that was a good one. That was a good one. Not surprised. Corey Gaming, always good content. Always cool to listen about. So, I mean, highly recommend giving them a sub, watch some videos. But yeah, no, it was cool, and I hope I could give some additional, input and experience that you guys enjoyed as well.